How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper, and my goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading with the prices going up or down. Over on Dixie for the daily, we are pushing up to our green EMA, or 5 EMA. That is positive. If we can break and hold this, we could see a push forward. And as we will see Dixie and Bitcoin become a little more correlated, we do see futures correlated with Dixie. They did both go up, but the rest of the market isn't quite there yet. We can see this become more correlated, so if Dixie were to rise, that could help push crypto further. Our side does want to push forward. Our stochastic is gaining strength. We do have that blue above orange, so I would watch. That can help propel us up. VWAP, that yellow wave, is bullish, trying to push forward. It's very weak though, so keep an eye on it. Momentum is pushing forward, and that money flow is red, but if the VWAP holds above that neutral, we can continue further and gain some further strength. Don't know why we're not in full screen view. There we go. So over on Bitcoin dominance for the daily, we are starting to see that rejection, so I would exercise caution. If we break that blue EMA, it's likely we are going to push down to that 56, and we could continue lower, like we mentioned last night, down toward that 300 EMA. Remember, that's a 300-day EMA on this time frame, so it takes 300 days to move it. That's why it's such a strong support or resistance. Stochastic does want to pull back. RSI is pulling back. Momentum is rounding away with a red dot, and that VWAP does want to break bearish, so watch that VWAP close. If it continues lower, we could start a sell-off here. Over on our total for the daily, we are trying to break that 300 EMA. We do have a little bit of a breakdown, so I would exercise caution. We did retest our pattern, and we do see a bit of a rejection as far as the daily. We'll want to look at the lower time frames to get a better idea. Momentum does want to pull back, stochastic is selling off, RSI is pushing down, VWAP is breaking into that bearish territory, and that money flow is about to go from green to red, so I would watch. If that VWAP continues to push down, we will see momentum and money flow follow. Over on this 4-hour, we did get a pretty strong retest and rejection, so we did push up, we got a really strong green candle, then we got a pretty strong red candle that brought us down afterwards. This could be a very strong retest of that pattern. If we see consolidation, we could make a bear flag. I would also warn against lower lows with lower highs. Those are two things that could end up breaking us down from here. If we don't get above that green EMA, it's likely we are going to continue lower, and we could see altcoins sell off. So that could end up pushing us down right around that 532, 529 area. So keep that in mind. Money flow is pushing down. VWAP is bullish, but it's very weak. I would watch. Momentum is pushing forward. We are seeing money flow gain strength. RSI and stochastic are trying to gain bullish momentum, but they're not too strong. I would watch. That VWAP is very weak and very indecisive, so I wouldn't bet too much on this. Over on the 2-hour, we did come up near that 300 EMA, just shy of it, and we did get rejected, so that's another critical area you want to hold. Stochastic is rounding, RSI is pulling back, VWAP has lower highs. I would watch. This could end up breaking us down. Momentum is selling off, and that money flow is pulling back. Over on the 1-hour, we do have lower highs and lower lows here, so I would watch. At best, this would be a shoulder, a head, and then we could form a shoulder, an inverted head and shoulders that could push us up. But if we do not form that by pushing forward here, making that extra shoulder, and then pushing up and rejecting, then we would end up breaking away. I would watch. Remember, we want to hold ideally above that yellow EMA if we're going to gain some bullish momentum. Otherwise, we could end up pulling back. Stochastic is selling off. RSI is pretty flat, so watch that stochastic. VWAP is favoring bearish. I would watch. We have lower highs with some weak lows. If we see a round and a rejection of that neutral in the next few hours, it's likely momentum will break down, money flow will continue to sell off, and we will see those higher time frames weaken. So over on Bitcoin futures for the daily, we are struggling with our value area low on our fixed range volume profile, so I would exercise caution, as if we see further red candles here, we could end up losing it and pushing down toward that 57K. Remember, if we lose that 57K, we could see a lower breakdown. We do have that bear market gap. That is right around like 20K. So stochastic is pulling back here, RSI is dropping away, momentum is weakening, that VWAP is bearish, and money flow is pulling back. So I would exercise caution, watch those lower time frames. We don't have very much bullish momentum here. We do have a gap below us. We have a gap above us. Remember, they both have an 80% likelihood to fill, but ideally we would fill lower gaps first. RSI does want to curl, stochastic is weakening. That VWAP does want to break neutral, but it's very weak. You can barely see it. It's more prominent down here in bearish territory, so I would watch. Momentum does want to push forward. But if that VWAP does not get a significant push up like back here, then it's likely bears can still gain control. Over on the 2 hour, we are struggling here as well. We do have a long lower shadow that, if it's followed by a strong green candle, can push us up. But if it's followed by a strong red candle, we could make a rounding top and drop down. Stochastic wants to push up. Remember, that's why you wait for confirmation. You don't just jump in because you have a feeling. Stochastic wants to push up. RSI is pushing forward. VWAP is bullish. Momentum's pushing up. And money flow does want to gain strength. So we do look positive. I would watch for that to continue. Over on the 1 hour, we have a red candle after that long lower shadow. So I would exercise caution against further red candles and a break of that green EMA. If we break that green EMA, it's likely we would sell off. Stochastic is pushing up, RSI is pushing forward, VWAP is getting higher highs with higher lows. If that can continue, momentum could flip into bullish territory and money flow could gain strength. That could help propel us forward. So watch that very close, as that could prevent us from breaking that EMA. So over on Bitcoin for the daily, we do have a little bit of a fake out here. We tried to break down, got about half of the full move down. So I would watch. We did pull down right around that 57 level. We did pull to that 250 EMA, and that has been pretty solid. If we can stay above this EMA, we could see a retest and a push forward. So you want to see a strong green candle after this indecision candle to form a rounding bottom and push us up, similar to back here. Stochastic is selling off, RSI is pulling back, momentum is rounding, that VWAP is breaking down, money flow does want to flip red, so watch that VWAP close. If it continues to sell off, we can see money flow become more red, and that will show we have more selling pressure. Over on our 4 hour, we have some consolidation at best here, so I wouldn't get too hopeful for a bullish pattern. RSI is flat, Stochastic wants around. VWAP is trying to hang in there, so watch that VWAP close. If it stays bullish, we could see another run up. Momentum does want to gain strength, but it's not gaining much strength as that VWAP isn't pushing very strong right now. Over on our 2 hour, if we zoom in, we do have indecision candles to the upside, so this long upper shadow could end up breaking us down. We tried to push forward, couldn't break back into our pattern, and now we're seeing red candles. I would exercise caution because that long upper shadow shows bulls tried to break us into our pattern, invalidating a move down, but the bears are starting to step in, so watch for further red candles. Stochastic is pushing up, RSI wants to round away, VWAP has lower highs, so watch for lower lows. If we see lower lows, momentum will remain bearish and money flow will continue in the red. That will weaken our higher time frames. Over on the 1 hour, at best we have a symmetrical triangle here, and remember, a symmetrical triangle after a breakdown also creates a bear pendant. A symmetrical triangle on its own is 50-50. You would take half the move, sorry about that, so half the move, and that would be your breakdown or break up point. So since we're measuring the break up here, that would be right around like 60k at best. But if we measure the breakdown from that bear pendant, that could break our support level and push us right around that 55.3. So I would exercise caution if we do see that break and if we do not hold on that gap on futures. Stochastic does want to pull back, RSI is pretty flat, VWAP does want to break bearish, momentum is rounding with a red dot, and money flow is starting to pull back. So again, watch that VWAP close. If it starts favoring bearish, there's a likelihood of breaking down and possibly breaking to that 55k level. So over on graph for the daily, we did push down to our 14,316 like we warned. We did reject our EMAs, and they are potentially making a bearish cross, which could bring us lower. Stochastic is selling off with orange above blue, RSI is pulling back, momentum is selling off, VWAP is breaking down, and money flow is pulling back. So overall, I would exercise some caution there. Over on the 4 hour, we do have a long lower shadow followed by a long upper shadow. So we tried to get a bullish candle, but we followed it with a bearish candle. So watch for another red candle that could break that support level and send us lower if we're not careful. Our next kind of support resistance area would be where a lot of candles touch, right around this 13,641, and then we have our 1157, so quite the drop from there. RSI is pulling back, Stochastic is selling off, VWAP does want to break down, momentum is rounding, money flow does want to go from green to red, so I would watch that VWAP close. It could end up breaking us lower. Over on the 2 hour, we are trying to bounce forward. We're struggling with our EMAs though, Stochastic is overall pushing down, RSI is following, VWAP is favoring bearish with a lower low, so watch if we reject or get a lower high and then break down. If we do, we will see momentum remain bearish, money flow will continue to weaken, and higher time frames would push down. Over on the 1 hour, same thing with the EMAs, we're struggling to break and hold above them. Stochastic is dropping down with orange above blue, RSI is starting to fall. As a result, that VWAP is rejecting that neutral, so watch for consistent lows with lower highs here. That could create bearish favor, which will cause momentum to remain bearish. Money flow will continue to weaken, and higher time frames will break lower. Over on Ankr for the daily, we did push down to our value area low. We tried to break that 23.38, so I would exercise caution. If we do not get a strong green candle making a rounding bottom, we could see that manipulation X break us of that support level and possibly push us to around that 2020. We did warn against that 2020 yesterday. Stochastic is dropping away, RSI is pulling back, momentum is rounding, that VWAP is breaking down, money flow is bearish, so overall I would exercise caution here. Over on our 4 hour, we did reject our EMA band, and we are seeing lower EMAs cross below the higher EMAs. This does give the bears a little more control, as when the lower EMAs are on the bottom of the band, the bears have more control because your higher, stronger EMAs are being broken and you're being pushed under them. RSI is starting to pull back, stochastic wants to round. VWAP does want to break that neutral, watch that VWAP close, momentum does want to push forward, but if that VWAP rejects here, that momentum will remain bearish and money flow will follow into the bearish territory. Over on the 2 hour, we do have a gap below us, we also have one above us, so I would watch if we jump up above that blue EMA, and then we see a correction, we could end up snapping back down, and that could be what takes this support level out. Stochastic does want to push up, RSI is pushing forward, that VWAP has lower highs, so I would watch against lower lows. If we see lower lows than bearish favor, momentum will break down and money flow will follow. Over on our 1 hour, we are struggling with our EMA. We are trying to push forward, making a rounding bottom, but it's not the strongest rounding bottom. I would watch because this green candle isn't gaining much momentum and we could easily reverse and push down. Stochastic does want to round, VWAP wants to break down with lower highs, watch for lower lows and a rejection of neutral. Momentum is starting to round away with a red dot and money flow is selling off, so I would exercise caution. Over on XRP for the daily, we are trying to hold our EMA band so that it's positive. Our black EMA is kind of mixed in with all these other ones, that's why it's hard to see. Stochastic is starting to drop down, RSI is pulling back, momentum is rounded, VWAP is breaking down, and money flow is starting to pull back. So watch that VWAP on lower time frames, it could end up making that money flow fall bearish. Over on the 4 hour, we are zigzagging around, we are trying to hold that 300 EMA, but we're having just as much trouble holding above that 57. So I would watch, we want to hold above that 57 if we're going to continue a bounce. Now Stochastic does want to round, RSI is pretty flat, but if Stochastic breaks, RSI will follow. VWAP is kind of indecisive, it's not really bullish or bearish, hard to see it. Momentum is pretty flat due to that indecision, so watch lower time frames, they will lead that higher time frame. Over on the 2 hour, we could have a double bottom, best case scenario. Remember that's created when you have a drop, a rise, a drop, and then you get another rise, and that would push you further up, so that could help propel us above that 60-cent level. Our stochastic does want to push up, RSI is pretty flat though, so I would watch that stochastic. If it makes a round away, RSI won't help push price up, but we do have a long lower shadow candle here, so if followed by a strong green candle, unlike this one that's a long upper, then we could push forward like back here. That's what you want to see to make that other rise up. Momentum does want to push forward, but we have a red dot due to that VWAP, so watch that VWAP close. Over on the 1 hour, we are struggling to hold above EMA bands. Stochastic is dropping away, RSI is pulling back, VWAP is struggling to get higher highs. We are also struggling to get lower lows, but momentum is dropping down, money flow wants to pull back, so watch if that VWAP rejects that neutral. If it does, we're likely going to favor bearishly, and that would invalidate our double bottom possibility. So over on ALGO, last but not least, if there's no requests, we are dropping below our EMA band here as well, so again, exercise caution, as that means bears are gaining more control. It also means we could push up eventually because you don't stay below your band forever, but you won't push up right away. Back here, it took a number of days, July 24th to possibly August 24th, so it took about a month to make that bounce. Momentum is starting to drop away, stochastic is pulling back, RSI is pulling back, VWAP is breaking down, and money flow wants to pull back, so I would exercise caution, watch lower time frames. Over on the 4 hour, we do have lower highs with lower lows. We are struggling to make another lower low though, so watch the next few candles. If we don't break below our 1261, then we could see some bullish momentum form. VWAP does want to hold bullish, momentum wants to push up, money flow is trying to bounce, stochastic wants to round in, RSI is pulling back. Over on the 2 hour, we are struggling with our EMA, that 300, so we can't break above and hold. It's more bearish for us, so if we don't get above it soon, it's likely we will break away. Stochastic does want to push up, but it's very weak right now. If it continues to hold very tight, we could see it fall very easily. RSI is pulling back. VWAP is starting to favor bearish with a weak low, but we rejected for a higher high. So if we see a lower low from here, we will have bearish momentum that will bring momentum lower with that red dot, and money flow will continue to sell off, weakening higher time frames and pushing us lower. Remember, we have that 1032, so quite a bit lower than us. Finally, on the 1 hour, stochastic is breaking down with orange above blue. RSI wants to pull back as a result. VWAP has lower highs with some weak lows, so I would watch if we fail to get above that neutral. It's likely momentum will break down, money flow will stay bearish, and we will continue to sell off. And we need that VWAP to kind of break that neutral and hold if we're going to get bullish momentum, see momentum round, and see money flow push up. If you don't see that, we're likely going to remain more bearish. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a great night. I appreciate all.